Welcome to the Moms I Know with Sheila Walsh-Denton and Maria Anderson-Farner. Two moms on a mission to reclaim childhood and take you from surviving to thriving on your parenting journey.
The Invitation by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing.
It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive.
It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from the fear of further pain.
I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it.
I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human.
It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself, if you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul, if you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy.
I want to know if you can see beauty even when it is not pretty, every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence.
I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes.
It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children.
It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back.
It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away.
I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments.
This is Sheila.
And this is Maria.
And we want to welcome you to
The Moms I Know. Such a powerful invitation. Oriah Mountain Dreamer. I love that writing.
How did you come to it? Because this is my first time seeing it.
I was introduced to that at the Women's Herbal Symposium years ago when my daughter and I were there. And I heard that, and it was so striking to me back then, and it has come to me many times over the years when I have been in moments like this. And so, when I've had to get up in the morning after a night weary and bruised to the bone and do what needs to be done to feed the children, when I've had to look at different people's choices and think about what really matters. And so I just have always come back to this as sort of a source for me of that carrying on and that looking at what really matters in life. And our topic today is this idea of an invitation to our humanity, I think.
I like that. Yeah, we feel like there's a need to talk about the current events, but just how we are living. Are you living with fear? Are you living with trepidation because of our politics, because of our situation, especially if you're living in the United States right now, or and even in other places around the world. I don't know where our listeners are, and we all have challenges, but I feel it's especially poignant in our country right now.
Right. Well, our global situation, our the environmental situation, the economic. We're surrounded by all kinds of challenges right now at this time in our history. And yet, it's interesting because when you actually look on a global scale, more people are doing better, more people have more, but we have these big issues that are going on in our society. And And so, without kind of going into all of the challenges, we want to talk about this, this invitation. Oriah Mountain Dreamer, she says, I want to know, how do you source yourself? How do you get up and how do you deal with these challenges? And so, Sheila, I really appreciate the way that you said, are we parenting from fear, or are we parenting from joy, from optimism, from, this idea of we can deal with these things. We can come from a place of strength, and we can teach our children to have this resiliency. Well, actually, our children are our greatest teachers.
Yes, they are, and they are the ones that are leading the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we look at our schools, we look at our children, we see them taking action. Mm-hmm. And I think I remind the families I work with my friends I work with, that how do we get through the tough things? How do we get through those things that feel unbearable? We take action.
We take action, and we look to the children. I mean, the children are the ones that keep us centered. They keep us grounded. We have to keep going. We have to be upbeat and optimistic. But this piece of taking action, and I think that many of the children are showing us the way. They are taking action with so many different things, whether it's the environment or violence or politics or any of these things. They are showing us the way, but we can model for them as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, we can just look at gun violence, for example, and what happened in Florida last year, and how the students, the Emma Gonzalez, and how these students really said, not again. It's not. This is not going to happen again. And they are playing into our politics. They are playing into. They have influenced us because they were not afraid. They got that invitation, and they're like, what? They can live in that fear. They can live in that bubble, or they can take the action and let people know. And I really believe that that's what we have to do as a mother. It is my job to take action so that my children see that I'm not just sitting here not doing, I'm not and not participating.
Well, I think back to even when my children were very young. I mean, we can all take little steps. And, we've talked in many of our podcasts about things that we can do, whether it's, the non-toxic lifestyle, or whether it's, just being more conscious in every choice we make, or the way we speak to our children about mindset. And so this whole concept of what are the actions that we take, our children see us. So when our children are very small, they see us, whether it's recycling or composting or volunteering at a soup kitchen, or putting together something for a family in need, or however we choose to address those types of things, whether we're putting together a major fundraiser, whether we're out running for office, whether we're doing these different things. I met a woman just this last week, and she had run for local office. I can't remember if it was a school board or even a policy thing, but she said her young boys were so proud of her for running for public office, and she got elected to the position. And she said her kids were saying, that's my mom now. And so, we can model for them, even if it's just something very small, but we're taking that action. And then the children themselves, I mean, when we help them see that every action that they take has this ripple effect. Another program that we did in the classroom was the Pennies for Peace, where, even just gathering pennies can help make a difference for children in other places in the world to have education. And so many different things. We started this whole conversation talking about resiliency, and I want to take it back to that piece of not parenting from fear, but parenting from optimism, parenting from strength, parenting from joy. And I think that that's where we have to go. But our children, like I said, are showing us that. They don't give up when they fall down. They get back up. They can, have a temper tantrum, but then they come back and they throw their arms around us and say they love us. And so they're modeling for us. And so then we have to model for them as well.
Yeah, they are the ones who help us get through the tough times when things have happened. It's like their joy. It doesn't sit with them as long because they do not have the perspective, that life experience that that sticks with them, that stays with them. Whereas adults, we have hardened a little bit more, and to try to protect ourselves, we might hold on to it, we might compartmentalize it, we might just put it away. And I think when we are able to be vulnerable, when we're able to show our children that we can cry, that we are upset, that we think things are unjust, that we speak up. And I think that is, as parents, that's our work. And so my children know that, and I'll give an example, me too. And they know that that has affected me. I was a victim of sexual abuse when I was 5 years old from a neighbor's uncle. I had no idea until my mid-30s what happened. It was when my sister, and it was a bunch of girls in our neighborhood, that this happened to. And my children know, because when Me Too started coming up, it affected me in a way that was visible. And I feel that it was, I could have said, oh, they're too young to hear this. I don't want to put this on them. But how I did it was said, you have the power, especially to my teenage daughter, who's going out in the world as a freshman. You have the power in your body. You are in control of your body, and to empower through my experience, and so that's not necessarily leading from fear. And I feel like we really need to give our children those tools and to show that we're human too. We're not, I feel like when I grew up, and I don't know if this was with your experience as well, but when I grew up, my parents were my parents, and their parents' friends, like, they were far away. You know what I mean? Like, I respected them. But they were, I don't want to say untouchable. I got hugs and everything like that, but in the sense that there was such a difference between the parent and the child.
They weren't vulnerable.
Yes, that's it.
I want to take a moment, though, Sheila, and just, I see you. I hear you. And so I acknowledge what you've been through. And I've been seeing that with so much of this coming out these days is that we do need to hear each other. We need to share our stories. We need to not, and I know you said, you haven't let that define you. And so to help our children claim their power and to say, okay, that was nothing that you did wrong, that you didn't know. And I've been talking to a lot of people about this lately, and just this idea that, a child doesn't know the nuances of this. And then as adults, we have our experiences, our trauma, our way in which we either shut down or we get empowered, or however we deal with it. But I think our parents' generation didn't show that vulnerability. It was post-World War II. Yes. They were coming back to just raise their families. They wanted to move forward. My own family, I know we all come from, both of our families were immigrants. And so they're leaving behind something that they want to try to forget. And yet we carry it with us. That does get passed down, and we're going to be doing more about that in a future episode, this idea of generational healing. But we carry those things with us, whether our parents talked about them or not. And when they had that, invincibility, or that they didn't show us their vulnerability,
exactly.
that we felt as if there was something wrong if we then had these things either happen to us or just go through our own experiences and not take the time. So I think that now people are realizing we have to share these stories. We have to, we don't need to share everything with our children in terms of details, but we need to share with them this idea that we're human beings, that we all are in this human story together. And so this idea of embracing people from all walks of life, embracing diversity, listening to people, looking at what unites us rather than what divides us, and whether we've had trauma in our past that was major, or whether we have childhood wounds that we need to deal with, whether we're struggling with this whole concept of motherhood. I was working with women yesterday, and yes, it's hard work. And so when we talk about those struggles, then we're honored for who we are, and then we can move forward and we can give our children that fullness of experience and allow them the fullness of their emotions. And so it's that piece of how can we help them to be resilient? How can we help them process their hurts, their joys, their struggles, their triumphs, and grow from those,
and be okay. And
yeah.
And one thing I want to go back, as I said, I was a victim, and I want to say I'm a survivor,
Mm.
because I've heard, it was Lady Gaga, when I heard her say it, it's like, yeah, I'm a survivor for sure, and as is my sister, and as are the neighborhood friends that we were with, and
As were our parents and our
as our
grandparents
parents,
of
our grandparents,
who knows
exactly,
what.
exactly,
Yeah, the human
exactly,
condition.
exactly. So yeah, and it's just, I think Brene Brown is just the power of vulnerability. And she's leading the way, and she just has our new book out. I can't wait to get Dare to Lead. If you have not read any of Brene Brown's books, please do yourself a favor
Right.
and get some of those. Daring Greatly, Braving the Wilderness, great books that really touch in this. And one thing I really like about Brene Brown, what I like about Glennon Doyle, what I like about Jen Hatmaker, and these are people. These are thought leaders. These are leaders who are showing their vulnerability, and they're preaching in a way their experience and their story of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
We need to look at this as eye to eye. Here Maria and I are we're hanging out and we're talking, and we're talking about, we want to raise the consciousness here, and we're doing this because we believe that we can help society. We can influence, we can inspire you to look at your children differently, to look at yourself differently as moms, and look at your partners, in a way that is in the loving.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because that's what's going to change the world. We have enough of the challenges, but when we love ourselves and when we can nurture the wounds, when we love our children unconditionally, when we can love our neighbors and our country men and women and our global citizens, we have to look at, again, I go back to that, what unites us. We all want the best for our families. We all want the planet to survive. We want us humans to survive on the planet.
Right.
And so we really do want the same things. And so we just have to look at hearing each other better and sharing these stories.
Yeah, and I do think in saying that, it's just like, but not be afraid to speak out with what you think is unjust. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we're like, oh, you can't say that, or oh, I don't want my children to see that, right? But I think we're doing them a disservice by not trusting them to see it. I don't know. What do you think about that? I mean, I know there's definitely like details. No, definitely, there's age appropriate. However, I'm okay with my children seeing me go to a protest. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with telling my children that I was a teacher again, but my first month of teaching, I was 27 years old, and I was protesting for for union stuff.
Yeah.
It was just like,
well, they need to know our beliefs. They need to know our values. They need to know values, where we position ourselves. And, of course, age appropriate. A very young child doesn't need to know all of the details of our past. But as they get older, I think our teenagers, they want to know who we are. They want to go deep. And, I always wanted that. I wanted to know more. And to this day, I love hearing the stories of when my mom and dad were younger. And, some of them are fun stories. But then there were the stories that weren't told. There was the story of the Armenian genocide that wasn't talked about.
Right.
But when it wasn't talked about, it became this big mystery. And it became this thing that was carried but not healed. And so, whether it's a small thing or a large thing, we have to look at these and give them the honoring that they need. And that doesn't mean that we need to wallow in them as well. I heard somebody talking about this concept of, then how do we move forward? And of course, when we have certain things, that therapy may be very appropriate, but at a certain point we have to look at sort of this healthful coaching model of then moving past. And it was funny. She said, if we're always wallowing, then how can we ever get clean?
Right. Yeah. And then you use that like EMDR,
right?
that moves through the trauma.
Yeah. And so all of these different techniques that we can use for helping to heal.
Yeah.
And there's so many different things. Aromatherapy is another one. There's just, but when we can work with those things and then heal them, and we can move on. And so, we're trying to raise this next generation. We're trying to help all of you raise this next generation without all of those wounds. And so the antidote to fear is this taking action. We encourage you to take the actions to make that difference and to help our children know that by them taking action with the things that they believe strongly in. I remember even just activities that we would do where we would do art projects about environmental things, or we would take a field trip where we would actually do a beach cleanup, and we could do different things where the children felt as if they were making a difference in the world. And so we invite you to whatever cause you are working with, whatever values that you have, if there's areas that you want to make a difference, that there's actions that you can take with your children to make a difference in the world. And then you're empowered, the children are empowered, and together we can create the world. And I think the young people of today, especially the ones in high school and college, are really realizing that it is up to them. They are taking ownership of this and saying, okay, the previous generations, they weren't looking at 7 generations as to the decisions that they were making.
Right.
And now we, as this group coming up, we can look at things differently and we can make a difference.
Did you know that the climate discussion, climate change, we are the only country, the United States is the only country where it's a political issue rather than a scientific issue?
A scientific issue. And yet
Yeah.
our young people are taking this and saying, okay, we're going to make a difference because we want to have a planet to live on. And so it's really fun to see. Well, it's inspiring to see.
It's inspiring, and they are they're making change.
Yeah.
And that's
right.
Right.
So with this, we really want to just help you all see that in the midst of all of the challenges that are going on, that we can take action steps, that we can make a difference, and we can help our children understand that they are the future.
And show your vulnerability. Show who you are, because that's where the magic is with your families. And I know that there's actually been studies done that when stories are shared by multi-generations, that it is like it shows that vulnerability, but it shows the humanness, and that I don't know what it proves, but there's some like positive correlation studies, if that's such a thing. Correlation positivity of like family, of just like, and I think it's actually like success, like childhood success, and when they hear their stories of their grandparents. And so one thing that we do oftentimes when we get together as a extended family is we say, what is your favorite childhood memory? What is a memory on Mother's Day? What is your memory of your mother? And we ask, we hear it from the aunts and the uncles and stuff like that.
And we can do that with so many different holidays and days of the year and birthdays. And so what a great way to end this with this invitation to all of you to take those special moments and create those stories and revisit those. So until next time,
we'll see you on
The Moms I Know.
Thanks for joining us today for The Moms I Know. To learn more about Sheila and her online program, The Mom Map, visit purplebeetnutrition.com. For Maria's monthly blog and to learn more about her group programs and retreats, visit soquelessentials.com. That's SOQUEL essentials.com. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Moms I Know. Until next week, have a joyful family journey.